May 24th agenda session. If I can get a motion for our minutes, please. All right, I do have a motion for approval on the minutes with a second. They will stand without objection. Tonight on ordinances on final reading under Parks and Public Works. Madam Clerk, we have read these items into the record. So if you would look through item 5A, we do have ordinances on first reading, but before I take comments from our two council representatives, we did hear these. They say first reading, but we did have a public hearing on both of these items. So I want to make sure that we covered that for tonight at 6 o'clock. We did have a public hearing last week on these items. Do I see any lights on items, planning items A or B and or C? Hey, are you hit your light for me, Councilman Hester?
I can't.
All right. Can IT, are we locked up? Q is currently disabled. If you'll unlock us, please. It's me. I got it. Thank you. Councilman Hester, there you go. Thank you, Councilman Smith, and all your audio visual expertise.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. The item B, I want a amendment to this where we want to create a berm, and Karen's going to give us all the details by 6 o'clock. We'll have all that together by 6.
So on item B, Councilman, you're reporting to us, you're going to add a condition or amend this item. Your intention is to amend this item with probably a landscape buffer and language is forthcoming?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, and that will be presented at 6 o'clock.
That's correct.
All right, very good. Any other questions? Councilman Henderson, I see your light, sir. Are you good? This is on your item? Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Councilman, for suggesting that amendment. I think that will, I think, help buffer a little bit the neighborhood from seeing just a 3-story building sticking up in the air. On C, I do plan to make tonight an amendment to this one, whereas people with a single-story dwelling, primary dwelling, could have an ADU over like a parking garage or whatever. It basically would say height for detached ADUs when the primary dwelling is 1 story. The maximum height of the detached ADU shall be no more than 24 feet when measured to the peak of the roof for all roof types. And that is a different measuring point from where we would typically measure the roof from on a 2-story. So what it does, it lowers it just a little bit, but it would still allow for basically a 1.5 story unit.
1.5 stories. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know that we did discuss that in committee as well. All right. Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions on A, B, or C? Very good. Under resolutions, economic development. Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you. On item C, the ADU legislation, so we have, or the ordinance, we have a handful of red lines that have been made to this document, and some yellow lines and some blue lines. So just wanted to make sure that everybody has seen this revised version prior to our 6 o'clock vote, so that everybody knows what they're voting for.
That's a great point. I see Mr. Anderson. You read my mind, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, Chairman. And Karen's provided some hard copies. I'll hand out to council now, but you should all have them in your inboxes as well. But I'll pass out the hard copies now too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for bringing that to our attention. Under resolutions, economic development, items A and B. Madam Clerk, will you read those 2 items just to make sure?
A resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a first agreement to exercise option to renew with Street Grace, Inc. in substantially the form attached for the period through April 30, 2024, and to enter into a first amendment to office lease in substantially the form attached for the use of 106 square feet of office space at the Family Justice Center located at 5705 Upton Road, identified as tax map number 157MA012 for the rent of $1 annually. B, a resolution authorizing the interim administrator for the Department of Economic Development to enter into an agreement with the artist team Wauhaus in substantially the form attached for the East Lake Park Interactive and Functional Artistic Seating Project in the amount of $150,000.
Thank you. These are in items 6 and 7. Any comments? Seeing none. Under Mayor's Office, we have two resolutions for mayor's appointments. You read those for me?
A resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's appointment of Kenny Smith for the Board of Electrical Examiners with a 4-year term expiration of May 24, 2026.
Under
D,
pol-
a resolution confirming Mayor Kelly's appointment of Angie Toll for the Chattanooga Public Art Commission.
Thank you. Under Police, item E.
A resolution authorizing the Chief of Police to enter into an agreement for animal control services between the City of Chattanooga and the Animal Care Trust McCamey Animal Center for a 5-year term beginning July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2027 for an amount not to exceed $10,619,300.
Thank you. And item F, we covered in Public Works Committee. Chairman Hester? Very good. I don't see any questions. Moving on to our purchases for this evening. I believe we have 8 and 2 RFPs. Are there any questions for our purchases this evening? Earlier in this morning, I did have a question on the item for the Chattanooga Police Department on the Airworks Go Command Mission Ready kits. I was hoping we could get a little bit more background on that and what these are actually used for, and maybe some sample scenarios.
Yes, absolutely. I'll let the captain provide some details,
Sure.
but I think the main thing is that these drones provide a wide variety of tools for our department, including during search and rescue, major events. They have thermal imaging that allows during a search and rescue to identify people who are missing. They're an important tool in our department's special operations. So I'll let the captain expand upon that.
Thank you. And I think I heard an example of a need for these, even a search and rescue on the side of a mountain recently, where these would have been very helpful.
That's correct. It's also using crowd control. They also helped us locate it at the unarmed gunman that was on top of a building recently in one of the events. It covers a large amount of area, so if it's in a dangerous area, it puts less people in danger, and going down there and scan more areas from that point.
Very good. So this will be available also to EMS?
That's correct.
Yeah. Will you lend them to fire?
It was brought up that it could also, that's thermal imaging, that basically they can scan the area for fires. If there's smoldering heat or something like that, that they'll be able to use it and put it out before it gets started back up again.
Very good. Thank you. I don't see any questions further on this, but if you want to hang on, we have 2 RFPs from the police department as well. If we want to go ahead and cover those. Joe, do you want to cover those?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Captain.
The RFP formats are really just for a police organizational evaluation. And then also, I think the item of interest is going to be the police foundation, which is something that Chief Murphy has a lot of experience in her former department in Atlanta, which is a opportunity for the police foundation, which is a separate 501c3, to work with our business community, to work with the private sector, to work with our nonprofits, to make sure that they are engaged in being a real advocate for our police department, from everything from police athletic leagues all the way to making sure that our department has access to the equipment that they need, outside of maybe some requests to this body or to the administration. So I think it's an exciting opportunity for our police department to have advocates out in the community. And Chief, I didn't know if you wanted to talk at all about the foundation and your experience with it.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon, Chief.
So I'm sure Joda covered a lot of things, but what I'd like to just also say is that there's a bunch of creative ways that we can use this extra resource as an extra layer to be able to advocate for the police department. Some of the examples that I've seen come of this have been a lot of things that have not only helped the police department enhance their professional development, but also leading to activities and resources that reach out to the community. So they've opened up youth centers. They've even, at recent, they're getting ready to break ground on our police and fire training center. So there's this, they've done affordable housing for police officers to stay within the city. So there's just a bunch of creative ideas that they help to add that extra layer where our dollars may not be able to stretch.
And Chief, I understand that this 501c3 will actually not solicit funds from the city.
That's correct. So there are situations if the city, if the mayor wants to do something collectively with them in the future, that can be, but that is not what this is set up to do or designed to do. But if there's a program or something that the mayor sees fit and would like to use it for the police department using the police foundation, then that is something that could be worked out in the future, but that is not the purpose of this.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Chief, I am seeing no further questions on these RFP requests. I appreciate you coming and
All right,
talking to
thank
us
you.
about those a little bit more in detail. Council, moving on to our May 31st agenda, we have under special presentation, our public input session for the FY 2023 budget. Anybody want to address that? I don't see, well, there's Brent. Mr. Goldberg, you're here. Anything special you want to share with us?
Mr. Chairman, what would you like me to talk about?
Could you go over the budget one more time for us
The whole,
from the beginning?
yes. I'll just start from page 1.
Okay. We have scheduled in here about our public input session. So would you just walk us through what you expect to see
Starting next week.
starting next week?
Yes. So the public input session is scheduled for 6 p.m. next week. I believe Chairwoman Burrs of the Budget Committee set a cap of 2 minutes per person.
We set for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And we have 2 minutes per person, but if this council needs more time for public input, no one will be turned
Yeah.
away.
And along those lines, all of the budget documents are posted on the City of Chattanooga's website for the public to view. So the public has plenty of opportunity to view what's included in the budget documents in order to come and provide input to the council.
Very good. And then the following week on June 7th at 2:00, this body will deliberate in an open meeting on any concerns concerning the budget, which will also be our first vote that evening, if, underlined, we are ready to vote. So that question will be presented to you on June 7th. All right. Thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you.
All right. So looking at items on May 31st, we do have our planning items on final reading. Under the mayor's office, Mr. Anderson, we have several mayoral appointments. If you want
Yes,
to
you do, Chairman.
address those, and if you have anything to add, now would be a great time.
Sure. Motion to approve.
Wrong roll.
We have quite a few appointments next week, Chairman, from Mayor Kelly related to land use boards. And this is something that we came to you about last fall and said we're going to make these boards look more like the city of Chattanooga and the citizenry we have here. And we think that this slate of candidates looks like Chattanooga and represents a broader swath of Chattanoogans. So we hope that you'll pass them. If anybody has any specific questions about any individuals, I'm happy to answer those. I'll also forward you all the applications we received in the Granicus system.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, please, thank you, if you won't mind. If you have any questions, council, on any of these appointments, please reach out to Chris, and the applications will be forwarded to you maybe this afternoon even.
Before you leave the building today, if
Before
you're
we leave the
staying for all the
building.
meetings.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, Councilman Smith.
Not specifically on these items, but we get confirmation of any positions that are still open that need to be filled by this body? I know we talked about it several weeks ago, and we've changed boards and eliminated some and whatnot. I know that I had one or two at one point, but I'm not even sure those are still valid boards. So when you get a moment, can you give us an update on which open positions there may still be for boards for this body to appoint?
Yes, is it all right to have that within a couple of weeks or
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be fine.
I'm happy to actually provide that to everyone.
Yeah, please.
And I thank you for, I know some of you shared the graphic asking people to apply for boards. I encourage you to keep doing that. We're doing it as well. And it's really gotten us a better cross-section of applicants, a broader cross-section.
Yeah.
But I'll be happy to provide
Yeah,
those. Yes,
I
sir.
just like, if I do have any opens, I want to push those as well to go ahead and apply. But thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. And Mr. Anderson, thank you for your work on this. I know this has put a lot of effort into this, and I think it's going to reflect very well.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other comments on our May 31st agenda? If not, we will move over to future considerations. If you'll take those out and take a quick look at future considerations. Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, I have a question about, it's on the Public Works. Item number 1, regarding the agreement with Hamilton County for the courts community service program to schedule workers for litter pickup. And I know this came up last year, so I just wanted to get some confirmation about what that entails. And if, I know Councilwoman Coonrod was concerned about this last year. I know she's not here today, but those individuals that are in this program do pay court costs and court fees. So why are we paying into this? And then how much does the county pay into it? The second question. And thirdly, do we have any control over where that litter pickup takes place, or can we have some input over where that takes place?
Thank you, Councilwoman. And I am currently working on getting those answers to you, and they'll be, I want to be able to provide a thorough report for you all whenever this hits the 2-week agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joda.
Any other questions on future considerations? If not, under Parks and Public Works, item A1, I would like to know a little bit more. I think, Julia, can you give us a little more context on the ongoing relationship that we're building with the Trust for Public Land?
Absolutely. And Chairman, if you don't mind, I'm going to call Scott up to speak a little bit more
There you
to our
go.
relationship with Trust for Public Land. We do have 2 items here from work that we are doing with them, and also an opportunity that we wanted to share with the rest of the council as well. Scott.
Very good. Scott, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So there are, to say it's unique is to put it mildly, there are 4 cities in the United States of America that enjoy the relationship we have with the national organization, the Trust for Public Lands. It's Atlanta, San Francisco, Cleveland, and little old Chattanooga. And it's remarkable because when you look at the resources TPL puts in our community, they actually dwarf those put in those larger communities. And what it's acted like is a force multiplier. So while the city, however you want to phrase it, de-invested, diminished its role in public parks for a period of time before now, TPL's activity here allowed us to stay on the upswing and keep making positive momentum. Now that we have a new Department of Parks and Outdoors with TPL on board, it acts like a force multiplier. So our budget request to you did not include property acquisition negotiators, contract managers, project managers. That's all provided to us from the Trust for Public Lands. So it's a massive, massive resource. In addition to, the exciting news is, I can't reveal it quite yet, but they are a grant provider to us as well. So over the next month, you're going to see some new grant dollars rolling into Chattanooga that work on issues such as equity, diversity, and accessibility that are core to the One Chattanooga plan that TPL is able to bring to our community without us hiring lobbyists in DC, fundraisers in New York and Chicago and other places. So this is going to allow us to strengthen it, double down on it, and maximize the resources of both.
Scott, I know when we're working through the Area 11 plan in District 4, one of the criteria or wants and desires of the residents of District 4, Area 11, was more parks, more attention to parks. And I'm really glad to see that formulating this relationship with TPL and strengthening it is the direction that we're going, that people really, really have been asking for. Do you have any update on our master plan? A little bit off the cuff question that we will be able to kind of wrap our heads around
Yeah, absolutely. The master plan will begin public engagement on June the 8th. We'll be reaching out to council members and the community for engagement through the summer so that this is informed and educated by the community members. TPL has a role there as well. This is kind of fun. These public hearings tend to have professional meeting attenders. I can always guarantee you who's going to come. They're going out to the parks, particularly in our disadvantaged neighborhoods, with coloring books and with professionally trained staff to get feedback from families and kids that are in the parks to ask them what they want more. That'll all course through during the summer and bring a plan to y'all for development, approval, hopefully authorization. Don't hold me to this. I'm hoping December, and get y'all a plan that you're proud to endorse that advances parks for the next generation in our community.
Very good. Scott, you'll coordinate with each and every one of us with the events in our district so we can make sure we do everything in our power to get the folks there.
You'll likely put me on a phone blocker at some point in July on that.
Very good. Hey, sounds great. Anything else you need to add to on this particular
Happy to
item?
take any other questions y'all have about TPL or our partnership.
I'm not seeing any other lights. So apparently you explained it rather well. And I think that it's important to understand where you're going in your department. And I appreciate your efforts tremendously.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to seeing more parks and more green space, and keep up the great work.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Any other questions for future considerations, council? I'm not seeing any lights. We have no department reports today. We have no committee meetings today. I don't know who arranged that, but all right. So I think nobody, Councilman Henderson, I knew somebody would jump in.
Well, I was busy watching the monkey and I think I got my pockets picked. But anyway, I need to back up to 6A
6A.
for just a minute. Having been gone this past week, I was looking at everything online, and I want to, Karen, I want to make sure that this lines up. When I click on the link online, it pulls up a planning version 2, which has a list of conditions in it that we had talked about making public access to the river for this particular project.
That's
But there
correct.
there is no planning version 2 on our agenda. Do we?
So I believe it was added to, it's 6A, which has deferred, and that is the one when I click that has the conditions to 5 stories and the additional language about working with the city to allow parking and access. So that is the one that had those additional ones.
Yeah,
Conditions
but when I
added.
click on the link, it does pull up planning version 2. I'm just wondering if it doesn't need to read planning
I see.
version 2 on our agenda, or if we need a separate heading entitled that says planning version 2 so that we all are on the same page and we understand what version we're actually approving.
Sure.
I understand. Yes, I had missed that. I don't know if that could just be where it says recommended for approval by Planning Commission. I don't know if that would be, I don't know, there, comma, planning version number 2, just to note that that is the one that's being acted on.
Council, would you prefer an alternate version be added?
I think it would be cleaner to see an alternate version 2
Yes.
on this agenda so that that's what we are approving.
I think that would be.
Or I could make a motion to substitute, but I think the easier
Let's do the
route is the
let's add
planning
an
version
alternate
2.
Version 2. So basically, Madam Attorney, this item here has what we need, but we need to probably we need to copy and paste that into an alternate version 2. So when we read that into the record, then it'll be the version that we need. And if you don't mind, can you double check that language?
Well,
Make sure that's.
And I'll just ask at tonight for you to go over the conditions that are on planning version 2,
okay.
just for the record.
I will. And just to align when you click on the link, it shows planning version number 2. So we'll just clarify that the alternate version is the planning version number 2, just in case other folks have looked at that.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you, Councilman. We'll keep an eye out for that for you this evening.
Thank you,
Any
sir.
other, yes, sir. Any other items before we adjourn until 6 o'clock? Seeing none, we adjourn till 6. Planning version.